All right, let's separate some eyes into their own material slot. Please back up your model file. You will be making changes to your avatar's base mesh, and things can go wrong. The things that I'm showing might not work for your base model, or you might mess something up with the export or something else during the process. And who knows what could happen in general. So please back your mesh up, and you can do that very easily by just finding the mesh object, which you can do by clicking on one of the meshes in your hierarchy and selecting the mesh over here, which will show you the mesh over here, and then navigate to the root of that prefab and click on the right click on that thing, export package, disable include dependencies so you don't export everything that this mesh needs, because you only need to export the mesh. So just make sure that this is off, and then export. Save that file somewhere. Keep it in a safe little private spot that you know won't set itself on fire anytime soon. And yeah, in case you do mess something up, just re-import that package, overwrite anything that it needs to overwrite, and you're gonna be good, and you will have recovered from any kind of disaster that might have happened. So you're going to want to open up your base model in Blender, whether through a blend file, an FBX, or some other model import. First of all, we're just going to find out where the eyes are on, so we can do that. Which object the eyes are on, so we can just do that by clicking on the eyes themselves, and that'll select the object, more than likely. Then I'm going to go into the Material Properties button, tab right here over side. And as you can see, we have hair, eyes, and we just want to have eyes instead of hair and eyes. So we're going to select the body object. We're going to press Control Tab. We're going to go into edit mode. And now we're going to look at what type of eyes we have. So if we hover over one of the eyes and press L, it'll either select a big chunk of the mesh or just that specific eye. I'm pressing G to move it around, Control Z to undo that move. If you have eyes that are separate from the rest of the mesh, then things are going to be pretty easy. But if you do this and you instead select like the whole mesh or something similar, then you're going to have to manually cut out the eyes from the mesh, as the eye mesh is linked into the mesh of the body or some other part of the body itself, and it's a bit more complicated, and it's going to be different for every base model, so unfortunately I can't make a video for that. But if you have separate eyes like this, keep following along. So I'm just going to hover over the eye, press L, hover over this other eye, press L. Now we have these eyes selected. So now we're going to assign a new model, a new material slot to them, and we can do that in the Materials tab over here by pressing the little plus over here, which will add a new material slot, and then we can create a new material by pressing new, and we can rename that to eyes. Now we can press assign to assign these vertices to that material slot. So we're going to have something weird, probably white eyes like we have here. And we are basically done, but not quite yet. So if I select all these things and then export this model, don't do this right now, I'm just doing this as a showcase to illustrate a problem. We will see that there is an issue now. So we have our extra material slot here, but the thing is, notice what's happening. The materials here, the order in which they appear doesn't line up with the order that we have materials in Blender. So you have body, hair, eyes, other parts, etc. Over here we have other parts, body, hair, eyes. So already something's going on where the order doesn't match. And so what happens if we assume that the last slot here, the eyes, over here it's the eyes, right? But what material slot is the last slot referring to in Unity? Well, we just drag some materials onto that. We'll see that it's actually the heart here, which is, I believe, yeah, it is the screens material. So screens is actually the last material that Unity thinks is on this base mesh, which is not a good thing in case you have animations on your avatar that work that basically do material swaps, which the Ampwave has by default, as there's some material swaps with the screens. So you're gonna have issues if you just export these materials without fixing the ordering. So to fix the ordering, one of the things I found that works pretty well is to select the eyes in edit mode and right-click, separate by selection. Make sure you only have the object selected on which your eyes exist and not a bunch of the other ones. So I'm pressing L to select these eyes again. Right-click, separate by selection, which will create a new object over here. Control Tab, object mode. We can select that object then and move the eyes around. We don't want to have the eyes as a separate object. We want to merge them back into the body. There's some magic behind the scenes with vertex indices and puts them at the top of the internal buffers, so that Unity sees that object is that material slot is now the last entry in the material list. So we're going to now need to merge these together, which we can do by selecting the body and then control-clicking on, or rather selecting the body and then shift-clicking on this other body. So make sure that your body is selected with this bright orange and your body copy is selected with this dark orange. And now we can have our cursor in the viewport and press Control J to merge these together. And now we can export. And another thing about exporting is that your export options are going to be different depending on the model. So for the Ampwave, I know that I don't need to change anything except maybe have selected objects as enabled, which will only export selected objects. But for some base models, you're going to want to apply scaling set to FBX all. And how do you know this? Well, we can go into Unity and click on the body here and check the scale. If the scale is 100, it is very likely that you do not need to have apply scaling set to FBX all. They can be all local. However, if your scale is 1 of the body, then you're going to want to set the apply scalings to be FBX all. Also, if after exporting your base model is all crumbled up and has weird scalings and is completely broken, also mess around with the scalings, as that might be the issue. But for the Ampwave, I know that apply scalings needs to be set to all local. So we're just going to overwrite export FBX, go back into Unity, and as we can see, element 4 now correctly corresponds to the eyes, and we have successfully separated the eyes into their own material slot, and now our animations are going to be perfectly fine because we didn't change the ordering of our materials. So we are good.